Thank you for watching this video. To best support the channel, please take a moment and click the subscribe button. Also, the links to purchase this fly and the materials to tie the fly are in the description. Today we're tying up a great variant to the Chubby Chernobyl or the Chernobyl ant, and we're tying up the simple sider Chubby. In the vise, we're throwing a Moonlit Tagata ML301 hook in size 10. And we're going to be using some 6/0 classic wax thread from Semperfli. The color we're using is pale olive. Gives us a good consistency and color with the body we'll be using. The first thing we're going to do after attaching our thread and trimming off our tag end is to take 4 strands of Flashabou. The color is speckled copper. And we're going to tie those in, fold them over in half so that we can have a total of 8 strands of Flashabou hanging out the back end. We'll leave those long for just a moment. Once we get done with the fly, we'll trim them off to make sure that we have a uniform length for those. So now we'll go ahead and build the dubbing underbody for our fly. I'm using some Skeeter Fuzz from Fly Tier's Dungeon, and the color is Caddis Green. So we're going to work our way back to the back of the hook, and we're going to cover everything up with this dubbing, and then we're going to work our way all the way back forward, building up a relatively uniform dubbing body. And with the length of this hook and the ease of control, I like using multiple clumps of dubbing. Clump it on, build a thin dubbing noodle, wrap where I need to go, and then add another dubbing section just to make sure that I'm covering things adequately without building up too much bulk. I'll grab one last clump of dubbing to work our way back to our tie-in point for our foam. Now that we've worked our way back to our tie-in point, we'll go ahead and grab one of the pre-cut foam bodies. Today we're using our thicker foam, the 3mm foam, and we're using a body that is toad green colored. Right here I'm going to take 10 wraps of thread to tie down this foam body. It gives me a little bit additional tie down power, and it gives me the ability to have a little bit wider thread base for where those legs are getting tied in, so they can splay out a little bit wider rather than be pinched in as close as they are when they're in a narrow channel of the foam. So I'll measure the barred round rubber legs. I'm using brown gold green legs from Nature Spirit, and we'll measure those out to be 1 full body length in length, and then we'll tie them in with 3 loose wraps over the top, and then let the thread and bobbin rest so that it just keeps things tight but not too tight, so we can adjust where these legs are and get them where we want them to be. From here, we'll go ahead and grab another pinch of Skeeter Fuzz dubbing and get that onto the thread and make a nice little noodle. And we'll go between our legs. I'm going to grab the back two to make it easier for me. And go through between the legs to cover up our existing thread wraps, and then advance our thread with the remainder of that noodle and move to our next tie-in point. And do the same thing. Throw in about 10 wraps of thread to build that channel and groove for the thread and the rubber legs to go in. And I'll grab another pair of rubber legs. Gonna measure them the same length and have them be 1 body length. And we'll tie them in right on top. And do the same process of 3 wraps and wiggle the legs to the sides. Now we're going to go ahead and go in and grab a parachute foam post. This is the 1/8 inch size. It's a little thick, but that makes it so it's really easy to see. And we're going to trim that so it's just the same length as that middle body section. It makes it so we can have some uniformity in our sider size. And then we'll tie that in right between the legs and lock that into place. And now we'll go ahead and grab some more of our dubbing to cover up our thread wraps. Get that locked into place. Check to make sure we didn't leave too many thread wraps exposed. Advance our thread to right behind the eye. And adjust the legs to where you want them to be. Then go pull the foam back and the legs back just a little bit and whip finish underneath the foam on top of the hook. And you are almost done with the fly. So trim off our thread here. Now go to the back of the fly, grab those 8 strands of flash and trim them right to the back end of that foam. The final step on this fly is we're going to go ahead and grab our UV resin. We're using Raid Zap Thin. Cover up those exposed thread wraps right there. Then grab a UV light to cure your UV resin, and you have the fly finished. Once again, this is a great attractor pattern, works well to imitate hoppers and beetles, other terrestrials. It'll float. That white foam cider makes it really easy to see, especially if you're using different colors of foam. And we look forward to having you buy some.